Chapter 351. Understood. If that's the case, I will follow behind. Do as you wish. The half-hearted response by the Knight Commander, who seemed to have lost his motivation, was immediately followed by Kishir, who then gestured to Ever, Aemon, and Finn. Together with the jailer, they hastened to the place where they had discovered the imprisoned the day before. It's there. Either turned his head toward the direction Aemon was pointing and yelling at. The place was a large-scale dungeon attached next to the door leading from the first to the second floor of the underground prison. While the other cells they passed were relatively quiet, strange noises repeatedly emanated from this area, attracting attention. The sounds of scraping against the wall, inhuman screams, and laughter that seemed like sobbing reached them. Jemerfil asked the jailer with a grimaced face. It's chilling. What sort of creatures are imprisoned here to make such a noise? He seemed as though he did not even know such beings were locked away in the prison he was in charge of. That would be... As the jailer cautiously began to explain the nature of those trapped inside, the cavalry members approached without hesitation. The guard in front of the door swallowed nervously. Yudhir stood beside Kishir and examined those inside the bars. According to what he had heard from Ever, they were a diverse group in terms of age and gender. Their bodies were so filthy that it was difficult to recognize the original form of their clothes, and a foul smell wafted out even from a distance. Most lay sprawled on the cold stone floor, shaking as they stared into the void. Some howled like wild beasts, while others repeatedly scratched the walls. The scene was so unusual, it was hard to believe that the prisoners were fellow humans, and Kishir's expression turned grave. Were they in this state when they first arrived here? Yes, they hardly communicate and show no interest in one another. The jailer answered with a tense face. According to him, the prisoners didn't show interest in each other, and managing them was difficult due to sudden fits of self-harm. Originally, there were about 20 of them captured. But with the frequent fits and self-harm, there are about 16 left now. Has there been any family or relatives looking for them? Yes, their clothes are so dirty it's hard to confirm, but among what they are wearing, many aren't in the style of the Empire. I suspect some foreigners might be mixed in, but there is no way to know where they came from. Yudhir listened to the conversation and once again scanned the faces of the imprisoned individuals. They certainly don't seem to be awakeners. It's not merely that their memories were erased, their mind seems shattered. Is this the work of our side? If they were indeed ordinary people from the village of the Star of Nagran, there was every possibility that they had been driven out by Nahan, who favored only the awakeners. If they weren't abandoned when the village was moved but treated like this afterward, it's possible that a significant internal dispute occurred later. Aemon, who among them did you and Finn recognize? Aemon, who was frowning as he looked inside the prison, pointed out several people. Among them were individuals with notable appearances. A man covered in large scar and a woman with striking ash-colored long hair. Those people. Honestly, I wish I were wrong, but looking again, it seems I'm right. Having finished pointing them out, Aemon sighed softly. To reduce them to this state, to prevent them from leaking information, even if it didn't kill them, how is it different from death? I can't understand why it had to be done this way. Yudhir wore a perplexed expression, silently observing the faces of his comrades. Open the door, I'll take them. Sir? At that moment, Kishir, having finished his conversation with the jailer, gave the command. The soldiers around all opened their mouths in disbelief, only to clamp them shut again upon seeing either's face. Surely they didn't commit any crimes to be locked up here. From now on, we will take charge of the investigation. Yes, just do as he says. What more will we know by taking care of those lunatics ourselves? With an annoyed voice, the Knight Commander gestured, and without a word, the prison door was opened. Take them to the Baron Wilhelm's estate. With their noses wrinkled at the stinging smell, the jailers tied the prisoners and led them out in a line. Thank you for cooperating, even though you must have been taken aback by the sudden request, Commander Jamer. I won't forget your cooperation. If I could be of any help in such a trivial matter, I am glad. Gently smiling at Gemerfil, who had answered in a roundabout way, Kishir seemed to brighten the gloomy prison. Even the chattering Gemerfil momentarily lost his wits at the radiant smile. A trivial matter? If the cavalry raises their merits because of this incident, it will be to your credit too, right? ... Well, actually, the possibility that investigating, as you say, won't amount to much is high, but if it turns out otherwise, it can help Tainu. The cavalry gains experience, Baron Wilhelm and you will have less trouble, so it's a good path for everyone. That Jamerfil, who was about to mutter something, ended up admitting that he had nothing to say. This matter, keep it confidential externally, and if you find those people again, or if someone related comes looking, contact us. Kishir turned away neatly, leaving Gemerfil behind. Ydir followed him, glancing back briefly. Their expressions of Gemerfil and the soldiers looking like they had chewed on bugs was quite interesting. Back at the estate, Kishir ordered the prisoners to be washed and given empty rooms. While Baron Wilhelm's servants followed the orders with faces like they might faint, Ydir sat in Kishir's residence with Ever, sipping tea and cookies bought by the errand boy. Of course, that was just a pretense, and the actual conversation was a meeting related to the events of the day. As you already know, according to Kanawan's report, the location where the villagers from the Great Serene Forest have moved to is likely near Tainu. However, around there are no mountains or forests where a large number of people could hide. Did they indeed confiscate an entire village? At Ever's question, Kishir answered softly while sipping his tea. If they had the ability to build a village in the Great Serene Forest and hide it, it might be possible. But unlike the forest, this area is closely linked to nearby towns and cities. That would be too risky. Then, according to Kana's read information, they have been interested in the trade situation of the Tainu through the Great Serene Forest for a long time. Considering the resentment one of them showed towards Tainu recently, they may have moved in a direction to help that objective this time. In that case, there is also the probability of hiding disguised as a mercenary group or merchant group. Kishir tilted his head at Ydir's words, who had been listening silently. Certainly, the likelihood was higher. In Tainu and its surroundings, there were many commercial groups and mercenary bands engaged in trade with the Empire in the Great Serene Forest. If they had to move quickly, taking over and looting such places would have been easier. Commercial groups and mercenary bands were diverse groups with many passerby, varying in age and gender. If a sudden large number of people had to stay or disappear, no one would have found it strange. So, I would like to entrust that investigation to those who have worked in the relevant occupations in the cavalry, he said. As for who would be suitable, Ever, you will take care of selecting them and then report back. Understood. I can think of a few suitable candidates. Ever seemed to be recalling the faces of the members, mumbling to herself. The ones who bought in today should be kept in a state where they can converse for a while. Look for ways to make that possible. It will be easier once Kana Wand returns, but there is still something we should try before then. Treating those unaffected by mental abilities from the outside was extremely difficult. If there was a will to improve oneself, it would be easier. But if that was so simple, then not many would have died already in the prison. However, it was a problem that couldn't be ignored without trying. So Yudir agreed with what Kishir had said. Oh, and both of you should be aware of one more thing. As the tea the three had been drinking nearly revealed the bottom of the cups, Kishir opened his mouth. I heard that regular auctions are held in Tenu when I was at the Western Noble Salon. Officially, they are unrelated to Tain's family, but since commercial groups receiving investment from Tain family participate in large groups, they can't be entirely unrelated. Yudir realized that this was something Kishir had intended to say after visiting the salon. Last year, quite astonishing items appeared there, causing quite a stir. But if it's going to be held again, don't you think we should participate? Since the goods will be moving in large quantities, it will be easier to catch the tail and find evidence. That's true. But will it be held? At a time where they were trying to hide the Star of Nagran and protect secret trade from Tain's family, could such an event really be held again? As if reading Yudir's thoughts, Kishir spoke softly. We will have to make it happen.